In this video, we're going to look at developing a contoured sleeve cuff and a sleeve with some added fullness at the hem level. It'll be similar to the last sleeve that you just did, but maybe not as much fullness added. So we're going to actually start with our sleeve sloper, the more tailored one that you have. This can be found on page 306 in your textbook. So I'm on this artboard here with the sleeve. And remember, the quickest way to copy that is to just duplicate the artboard. There we go. And chances are it is at the end of the row. Here we go. Zoom out just a little bit, and I'm also going to expand my artboard size by actually coming over here to my artboard tool, and that puts me in my editing mode in which I can kind of increase the size of that. Now then, once I go to another tool, I'm out of the artboard editing mode. I'm going to double click in here and change this to my contoured cuff. There we go. And I can move it up out of the way for a little bit. On the sleeve, when I click on it, everything's been grouped in this, so I can go to Object, Ungroup, and in the meantime, go ahead and remove my grain line and my type. And the sleeve itself would probably be easier for all my manipulations to go ahead and change the fill to a nothing fill. All right. Now I'm ready to get started with it. It is as if I had traced my sleeve, in which your first step for the drafting the cuff would tell you to do. It says to draw your desired cuff line. So that is represented in the shaded area. In order for me to do that, I want to go ahead and figure out, how many inches long or high up do I want that contoured cuff. So a standard shirt cuff is usually about 2 inches, and it is a rectangle shape. Contoured cuff fits more snugly to the lower forearm from the wrist and tapers or expands actually as it goes up the forearm towards the elbow, just as the fitted sleeve does here. The contoured cuffs are also much longer than 2 inches wide. They can go about 3 to 4 or 5. So I'm going to actually come in here with my line segment, and this would be about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 inches high. I'm actually going to go ahead and go maybe about 5.5 as I'm going to put that in there. So that's going to be the height of my cuff. And the new lines that I'm going to need to mark in here, it has us bring in or redraw these lines, bringing them in so that it fits very snugly. Remember, the sleeve will have some ease to it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now the directions will read to divide the recorded difference equally and draw lines parallel to the underseam of the pattern to the cuff line. All right, what all that means is that actually prior to in the directions of drafting the cuff, at the top part of the page, there is a measurement needed. And that is where you actually take a measurement of the wrist for the person of this size. So we're using a size 8 sloper. And the average wrist size, we're going to say, is probably 6.5 inches. This measurement down here across your for the opening for the sleeve is about 8.25. So the difference between 8.25 to 6.5 inches is what we're taking off both sides. I've already done the math, and it is approximately 7/8 of an inch. So I can use my line segment tool and kind of draw in here. I want to see about 7/8 of an inch. I'll start over here because this point's already 1/8 of an inch in, and what I want to do is make sure it stays pretty parallel to that side underarm side part right there. All right, close enough. And here again, I'm going to draw another one in about 7/8 of an inch from this edge. I'm not getting super close in the video, but you should zoom in and take the time and count your 1/8 of an inch. I'm only doing this to sort of speed up time as we work with this. Now, this inner part right in here, there to there to there to there, is going to be our cuff piece. But it's all disjointed segments, and we really want a closed path. So I am going to come over to my layers. I can add a new layer in order to draw on top of. I'm going to go ahead and lock that original layer. And I'm going to go ahead and use my pen tool because I have pretty straight segments that'll work. And I'm going to start by drawing here to here to here. I'm just basically copying this shape. And kind of click. I was single click to set the point, then one more click and drag to just get a swing arm on that side of the point so I can kind of mimic that curve. There we go. Now this object is my cuff. All right, I'm going to move it on over here a little bit more. Now, there are extensions. It tells us to go ahead and add on to each side of the cuff, and this is because of the overlapping or underlapping that happens for the buttons of the cuff. Now then, these are going to be 3/8 of an inch. I'm sorry, not 3/8, 3/4 of an inch. I'm sorry, just a moment. Let me pause this and take that phone call. I'll be right back. All right, so here we're back again. We're going to extend our sides out 3/4 of an inch to handle the extension. So by clicking on the item here, I'm going to watch this point, and I'm going to watch that I go 6 of my 1/8 over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've actually moved that side over. Now this one's maybe a little harder to see, or maybe it'll be the bottom one that I'm going to watch as I click and drag this side out. I see something else that they did. They straightened out this line right here. So this anchor point, let's go ahead and get rid of it. I can do delete anchor point, go to that tool quickly with my keyboard shortcut of the minus key. Now I do have an angled line, and this edge then would be longer than that one. So we're going to go ahead and straighten it up. To move that point, I need to use my direct select tool. My keyboard shortcut is A, and I'm going to bring it up and over a little. I'm kind of eyeballing this so that I have somewhat of a same sort of angle to each side, although the left angle is slightly more angled than this, but I am more even in my length. All right, now I can actually extend this side out 3/8 or 3/4 of an inch, which would bring me out to watching my bottom corner to about here. And this would then be my cuff piece. So we can finish that out. Remember, select the object, offset the path, 1/2 inch for our seam allowance. There we go. The original path, we will make dashed lines because that's the stitching line. I can also make my grain line right here. Get my arrowheads on that. There we go. And this will be my cuff. And I think I was 36, so cuff. We would actually cut 4 because you'll need one for the outside, one for a facing piece being the exact same shape for one arm. Cut 2 of them for the outside and one for the inside facing piece for the other arm. So cutting 4 all together. All right, cut 4 cuff. You know the rest of the notations. I'd like to move on to the remainder of the sleeve. So let's do that. All right. So now our sleeve should be shortened right down here. Let's go ahead and add some points to our outer edge, but I can't do it with that line right there in the way. This one here. Oh, it's also on a layer that I locked. If that's my problem, remember, check those layers. So this segment, I drew it last. It is in front. I can right-click and get to my Send to Back option there. Now when I go to add my point, I can get to these line segments because now that piece is in front. So I've added points there. I want to cut this here and here, and I can get rid of these bottom parts. Actually, not the middle green line. So there we are. And we need to transfer this dart to our hemline. So let's remember that we need to know that this slash line would be coming from here to there. And that object is allowing me to know where I am going to set my point down here at the hem. Let me zoom in so you can see. Again, I sent it to the back. I need to place my point on that bottom edge. I need to cut it. I can get rid of that line now. My lasso tool will allow me to get those two pieces. I also need to add this one to the selection. So I have all three of these selected. And my rotate tool, set my vertex of rotation right here by single clicking. And now I close that, closing this dart and opening up this outer edge. All right. These lines I don't need anymore. That is still part of the other. We can come back and remove that a little bit later. But what we need now is to bring this point on up and add some more of our slash lines. Okay, we will have our quarter lines where we take this half of the sleeve and divide it in half, which is approximately about, actually we'll do it right about here and then up. There we go. And my other quadrant side, and I'm kind of eyeballing these again to about there. Actually, I'm going to shift it over just a little bit. There we go. Now, I'm not worried that these aren't touching. They're just to give me a little bit of a guideline of where I need to add my points along that curve in order to be able to pivot from. So there will be a point there and a point there. All right, and down here, we already have this cut, but we need a point added here. And this center grain line, that object, if it's not letting me put a point on the segment I want to, I need to make sure that one is moved to the back. Now I can get to that segment line. And I'm going to need to cut all of these points here and here, and these points right over in here, so that I can, now I need to cut that. Let's make it right on here. Okay. I don't know why it's not letting me cut that right now. All right. Now to slash and spread this, get your lasso tool. You are going to want to, our first spread is coming from this point and this line, moving everything out. So I'm going to need to collect those points, my notches, all of these points up here. I do not need the bicep line. There we go. But I will need this point right down here. So getting that with the direct select. Now I'm rotating, setting my vertex of rotation up here at the top, And so my next click and drag will let me spread this out. And the book says just spread it as far as you determine you want your fullness. So I did maybe want a little bit more than what I did there. So I'm going to go out about 1.5 inches, and I'm just watching my grid line here. Now then I can click away from everything. Now then the second segment here is to then collect all of these points or pieces. I do not need that line. There we go. And looks like I have most everything I need to rotate. So I am going to set my vertex at this point and click and spread this out some more. There we go. All right, and now to do the same thing on this side. I need all of these pieces. Actually, you know what? I don't need this bicep line. I keep getting him in my collection here. I need all of those points plus this one point. So I went back to my direct select tool, add my shift key to get that. Now rotate, set pivot point right here, and this is going to pivot out, and I want to do it about the exact same amount as what I did all pieces on the left. And back over to the lasso tool. And I think I got all of those, but I don't want that one. So there we go, got those. And I need to get the 1 point down here, but that's, there's the one I want. I don't want that one. Rotate from here and whatever that distance is. There we go. Now I'm going to leave these in place for a little bit of a guideline here to help me figure out kind of how to draw my lines down through here. It does have us extend the length so that the sleeve will kind of blouse over the top of the cuff somewhat. So first I'm going to actually kind of get this little segment out of the way so when I pick up drawing I can get right at those points out here. Let's zoom in so you can see it a little better. So when I go to pick up drawing, I want to get these outer points right there. So back to my pen tool, I'm going to single click and extend out. In this case, they didn't tell us how far to extend. I'm just going to come on down about 1 inch. And nice thing is I'm kind of watching this lower curve. Come back, click that, and I get a corner point, and then I can close up to that one. That looks pretty good, and I'm going to use my minus pen to minus anchor point to get rid of those anchor points. Let's see what's going on with this one here. There. Now that I got rid of those, I can actually let's do this one. If you'll notice in the drawing in the book, it has us straighten this line out or true it out. I'm collecting that one down to there. All right. Now, I don't need these additional lines. They were just kind of left over from all of that, although this center line can be my grain line. I'm going to extend it down a little bit. Maybe this top one, bring it in. With that one, I can change my stroke. Or I'm not, sorry, my stroke, put my arrows on. There we go. Right out here, this one I am going to add my seam allowance go ahead and change my stitch line to the dotted line. I've already ran this video quite long in this manipulation. You know how to do most all of that, so I'll just get it finished up so that you can see the finished picture of it in the system, and good luck with it. Let me know if you have any questions.